In the wake of the shootings, the NYPD has increased its presence in neighborhoods across the city.
CBS 2's Christina Fan has more from Chinatown.
Maurice and Christine, whether or not investigators believe these shootings were racially motivated, the Asian American community in this area believe it was a devastating escalation to the violence that they have grown increasingly familiar with. A typically vibrant and resilient Chinatown, feeling the most fragile it's ever been. NYPD officers were deployed across the city's Asian communities today. Families wondering, when will the attacks finally end?
Just walking down the streets, you just feel like, people think and look at you differently now.
That's why we have two people go together and then go home early, working early.
For much of the pandemic, Asian Americans say they had to endure anti-Asian rhetoric. The brunt of it, as you heard, coming from former President Trump. But today, condemnation against the shootings came swift from politicians.
We have to be clear that what we saw here is nothing less than domestic terrorism.
Words matter, and the division has to stop, and the anger has to stop.
Stop AAP I Hate, the nation's leading group addressing anti-Asian discrimination, called the shooting an unspeakable tragedy. Since last March, the organization has received more than 3,700 reports of racism.
Is that communist China?
Oh, isn't that where you're from?
New York City has been ground zero for many of the documented incidents. Earlier this week, an Asian American couple recorded this racist rant from a woman on a Manhattan street.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Joanne Yu with the Asian American Federation says the solution starts with breaking your silence.
When people say, how do we do this? It's racism that has brought us here.
And until the country as a whole reckons with and stops Asian American hate, there will be no healing. In Chinatown, Christina Fan, CBS 2 News.
Stay with CBS 2 News for continuing coverage of the deadly spa shootings. Look for updates on CBSN New York or at cbsnewyork.com.